A super spy handed a self-portrait to his partner, saying, "If I die, this will be my memorial photo." But then... June didn't actually die. It was all part of an elaborate scheme to fake his death and escape the organization. As it turns out, June had always dreamed of becoming an artist. After faking his death, he disappeared without a trace and started pursuing his passion. 15 years of relentless effort later,
내가 이런 거 제때제때 내라고 했지. 이런 것까지 내가 해야 되냐?
not only did his comics fail to gain any attention, but his position at home was also hanging by a thread.
이걸로 못 사지. 수고해.
June couldn't figure out what went wrong. Was he approaching his art the wrong way? While other artists amassed millions of fans, he somehow attracted hordes of haters. Every time he released a new work, the online comments section was flooded with insults. Some people even claimed, "My 80-year-old grandma could draw better with her feet." Others suggested, if it's not working out, maybe it's time to head to a factory and screw bolts for a living. The more he read, the angrier he got, sometimes to the point of wanting to track people down through the internet and silence them for good. Occasionally, he'd create a fake account to leave himself a glowing review, but within seconds, eagle-eyed netizens would expose his charade. Thankfully, his daughter was his most loyal fan, though even she couldn't help but speak some hard truths.
개 재미없대.
Still, she wholeheartedly supported her dad's commitment to creating. She even gave him an idea. If your imagination isn't enough, why not draw from your own life?
내 얘기하면 대한민국 다 뒤집어진다.
But June's work was so over-the-top dramatic that even his editor-in-chief got dragged through the mud by readers. Eventually, the editor had no choice but to cancel June's serialization. This time, June was in full panic mode. Without the comic, even his meager monthly income was gone. To make ends meet, he reluctantly set aside his dream and took up work at a construction site, hauling bricks. Yet even there, the foreman made his life miserable. The foreman saw June as an easy target and often scolded and bullied him, bossing him around without restraint. June thought, this is beyond tolerable, enough is enough. So, he trudged home, defeated, and sat down to drink alone in silence. Just then, the TV played a news story about a comic artist who not only paid off all his debts through his series but also bought a luxury car and moved into a mansion. This made June spiral into self-doubt. As he stared at the endless barrage of hateful comments and ridicule about his work, June finally snapped. Why should I, a top-tier spy, be the laughingstock of so many people? Fueled by frustration and alcohol, he destroyed all his previous works on the table and decided to take his daughter's advice. He began pouring his life story into his art, raw and unfiltered. But June knew this kind of content could never see the light of day, so he didn't upload it anywhere. But the next day, his wife seemed like a completely different person. She showered him with sweet words and even prepared a lavish feast. June was confused until his wife broke the news. His new comic had gone viral, and the internet was filled with nothing but praise. June was dumbfounded.
이게 왜 여기 올라와 있어?
당신 잠들어 있길래 내가 정리해서 쭉 보내버렸어. 어?
Realizing this could spell trouble, he rushed to find his editor, Old Park, and begged him to take the comic down. But Old Park wasn't having it. After 15 years of nurturing a failure, June had finally created a hit. You better go home and start working on the next chapter. The next chapter? That wasn't happening. If the organization found out about this, not only would his fake death be exposed, but his family could be in serious danger. Why? Because the comic revealed classified national secrets the top-level SHIELD project. But for now, there was a more pressing matter: delivering an umbrella to his daughter. Standing at the school gate with a broken umbrella, June watched from a distance as his daughter hopped into a classmate's luxury car. He could only hide in the shadows, drenched in rain. Back home, while closing a window, he accidentally uncovered his daughter's secret. It turned out she had been tirelessly practicing singing, dancing, and rapping. The reason? The family was too poor, surviving solely on her mom's income. To ease her mom's burden, his daughter had signed up for a rap competition. She was working hard to win first place and secure the prize money.
엄마 아빠 싸우는 것도 자꾸 엄마가 술에 취하는 것도 만약 돈이 많다면 볼 일 없겠지. 그래서 나갈 거야. Show me the money.
At that moment, June finally realized the times his daughter had nearly been hit by cars were because of his own incompetence. Determined to give his wife and daughter a better life, June decided to take a bold step, continuing his comic based on his own life story. Now, his creativity flowed like never before. He no longer struggled to come up with plots. With a flurry of keystrokes and pen strokes, his work was done in minutes. Vivid characters leaped off the pages, telling gripping stories without a single dull moment. As expected, the new chapters went viral the moment they were uploaded. Readers across the country loved it, and students in particular became his biggest fans. His daughter beamed with pride, and even the foreman who used to bully him was now an avid fan of his comics. Old Park was so thrilled while reading that he started mimicking monkey kung fu moves. With his comics taking the nation by storm, June kept his promise and gifted his daughter an electric piano. But it didn't take long for June's comics to attract the attention of the authorities. Recently, a string of secret agents had been assassinated, and June's comic had revealed many of their names. The chief decided to arrest June and specifically dispatched the top agent, Sheol,
나 지금 있는 거 아니야? 나 진짜 미쳤어.
for the job. Sheol was exasperated. "I've disguised myself so well, and you still figured out I'm a handsome guy?" But not wanting to face scolding or worse from his boss, Sheol reluctantly set off on the mission. When Sheol failed to gather enough evidence, the chief was furious. Since when do we, the great kimchi nation, need evidence to arrest someone? The subordinates thought that was a fair point, so they stormed June's construction site to apprehend him by force. Though June hadn't worked as a spy in years, his combat skills were still razor sharp.
새끼마다 체포해! 가잖아, 딴 데 돌려봐!
Realizing his comic had blown his cover, he quickly called his wife, urging her to come home so they could flee together. But Mina thought he was drunk on cheap liquor and hung up on him. Left with no other choice, June knew escaping would require money, barely $20, not even enough for a standing room train ticket. Just then, the special agents burst in. June effortlessly took down a few rookies in seconds, but the last one gave him a proper fight. The two exchanged blows, evenly matched, until the agent removed his helmet. Only then did June recognize his old fanboy, Sheol. The kid finally made something of himself, June thought, feeling a bittersweet pride. But just as he let his guard down, the chief, who clearly didn't believe in fighting fair, launched a sneak attack from behind. In the interrogation room, June tried his best to explain. The comic was a complete accident, and he'd never betrayed the organization. "If I did, how is it that my savings after over a decade barely hit 2 digits?
안 하면
네가 원하는 세? 그래서 기껏 많았다니만 그리면서 한 거야!
But the chief wasn't buying it. "Don't think I don't know your game. You're tired of the shame of freeloading. So after years of keeping your head down, you finally sold out the organization's secrets to terrorists for a shot at wealth and fame." June was stunned. "If I didn't know better, I might actually believe this nonsense myself." Sheol, standing nearby, had been skeptical. But just then, June's phone rang. The caller ID displayed the name Viper. Sheol's face darkened. "So, it's true. You're a traitor. Is Viper your code name, or the name of the group you've been colluding with?"
내 아내, 애 엄마.
But when the call was answered, a man's voice came through. The man introduced himself as Sang Biao and demanded that June bring out his former instructor to exchange for his captive wife, Mina. He also warned June not to involve the NIS. Trouble just got real. It turned out that June had once been tasked with capturing Sang Biao but failed to apprehend him. Instead, he had arrested Sang Biao's brother, Sang Kuan. During Sang Kuan's interrogation, however, a mishap occurred, and Sang Kuan died in the electric chair. Knowing Sang Biao was seeking revenge, June had no choice but to agree. He pretended he needed to confess everything to his former instructor, lured him into the interrogation room, and then, under the pretense of asking for a cigarette, suddenly struck. He took the instructor down and used a pen to unlock his handcuffs. By the time the chief and his team stormed back into the room, June had already taken the instructor hostage. The chief was furious and ordered June's daughter to be captured as leverage, intending to use her to force June to surrender. But June, anticipating this move, turned off his phone to prevent tracking, leaving the team with no way to reach him. Their only option was to call the instructor's phone instead. Unfortunately for the instructor, he had hidden the phone in a rather compromising spot. The instructor never could have imagined that his overly cautious choice of hiding place would cost him his dignity.
내 딸 털끝 하나를 건들면 다
다 뒤진다 이 개새들 진짜. 아파 잡지 마.
Now, as a top-level agent, June faced an impossible decision. His daughter was in the hands of the chief, who demanded he return and turn himself in. Meanwhile, his wife was being held by Sang Biao. There's no way I can sacrifice my little girl for my meal ticket of over a decade, right? When Minao realized her husband might actually come to his doom, panic set in. But just then, June pulled off a stunning dragon tail sweep. Minao was utterly dumbfounded. Are you serious right now? I was just being polite, and you're really leaving me behind? Even Sang Biao was stunned. What the hell does turning around mean? Do I, a terrorist, not deserve any respect? Want me to chop up your wife right now? June quickly apologized. Please, don't lose your temper. Let me rescue my kid first, and then I'll come back to swap hostages with you. Sang Biao was so enraged he was about to explode. I'm a terrorist, not a customer service line. You think you can handle this like queuing for my brother's revenge? Meanwhile, Cheol, sensing something was off, seized the opportunity to get June's daughter out of harm's way. He then demanded that June return with him to surrender, but June's daughter chimed in, Uncle Cheol, my dad has always treated you like a little brother, and seriously, have you ever seen a spy working as a bricklayer on a construction site? My mom even told him to go die once when she was drunk. June quickly interrupted. Stop it, kiddo. How is this pleading for my case? You're just here to embarrass your old man. Eventually, thanks to the instructor's explanation, the misunderstanding was cleared up. The three decided to team up to rescue Mina. Cheol led them to a safe house, picking out a large bag of weapons for the mission. With everything ready, the operation began. Three of the strongest agents working together? Nothing can go wrong, or so they thought. But when the chief caught wind of their operation, he pursued them relentlessly. The ever-resourceful June quickly devised a plan.
뭐가 미안해? 맞아야지. 너 혼자 나 잡으려다 놓친 척하려니.
Cheol suspected that June's heavy-handed response wasn't just because he had overheard something he shouldn't have. Meanwhile, the chief stared at the bag full of weapons. You say they're going to save hostages, but why didn't they take any of these weapons? This looks more like they're defecting to the terrorists. Cheol was speechless. What do you want me to say that they forgot? Elsewhere, June and the instructor arrived at Sang Diao's hideout, ready for the final showdown.
내 와이프 어딨어?
아파요.
But all of this turned out to be Mina's drunken imagination. If you didn't know better, you'd think it was the Korean version of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. In reality, she just had too much to drink. Mina, convinced her husband's abrupt turnaround meant he didn't love her anymore, decided to drown her sorrows. And how? By finishing off Sang Biao's stash of rare imported liquor. Sang Biao was furious. Your wife just ruined my prized collection of fine spirits. I'll punish both of you. He ordered June to torture the instructor. The instructor was completely baffled. What does this have to do with me? It's not even my wife. But Sang Biao didn't care. Still bent on avenging his brother, he strapped the instructor into the electric chair, giving him a full round of therapy, and was even considering a barbecue finale. Luckily, the chief and his men arrived just in time. Both sides opened fire, and the scene erupted into chaos. The fight was one-sided, and before long, the chief's team had the upper hand, with Sang Biao in handcuffs. Despite the victory, the chief remained convinced that June was a traitor. No matter how much Cheol and the others explained, the chief insisted on executing June. In a desperate moment, Cheol stepped up to defend June. But in the crossfire, Cheol was gravely injured, collapsing in June's arms. Seeing Cheol barely clinging to life, June was overwhelmed with grief. At that moment, several of the chief's men started dropping one by one. It turned out Sang Diao's sniper had taken position, using a high-caliber rifle to force everyone into a stalemate. June tried to retaliate, but Sang Diao seized the moment and shot him multiple times. It seemed all hope was lost. Cheol, finally seeing the situation clearly, lashed out at the chief. How are you even in charge? You can't even see through a simple ploy. Did you buy that position by selling your dignity? The chief was livid. How dare you talk to me like that? I'm your superior, you little punk. I swear I'll drown you in my spit. The instructor tried to smooth things over, but the chief, still fuming, yelled at him too, ordering him to write 100 self-reflection reports. The instructor snapped. we're about to die, and you're thinking about reports? Because of you, I'm still single. How are you planning to make up for my miserable life? While the terrorists were distracted watching the drama, June shot a gas tank, causing a massive explosion. Turns out, he had been wearing 2 bulletproof vests. The brawl erupted again. The instructor attempted to escort the hostages to safety but was caught by the sniper. Unable to take him head-on, the instructor snuck around through the back. Truly a season-old fox. Meanwhile, June and Sang-biao faced off in a final showdown. With a perfectly executed great rock spreads its wings, June took Sang-biao down for good. The crisis was over. June resumed his creative work, but Cheol, worried it might attract more enemies, urged him to stop. June refused. I want to make a living on my own terms. I'm done freeloading. But his wife had other ideas. I like you as a freeloader. Why do your wings need to be so strong anyway? Cheol was green with envy. Why doesn't my girlfriend have this level of understanding? Maybe I should go home and discuss this with her. The movie ends.